Well, hey everyone, what's going on? Adam Blue here, BlueGamer. I haven't had an update in a while, but lately I've been getting into that retro handheld scene. I think after I got the ROG Ally and I was having a lot of fun playing a bunch of retro games, especially like Castlevania, I got to a point where it's like, you know what? Sometimes I'd rather carry something around with me that's a little slimmer that I could play games on, and that's when I got this, I think, Powkitty RGB 30, which has been excellent. In fact, it has this. Well, you know what? I'll get to that. Let me move on real quick. Um, but so once I got the secondary device, I realized, well, sometimes I'm playing something on one device and then playing on another, and I would really like just because playing ROMs is not like an official means to do that through an organization that can support cloud saves universally. I set up through this program called SyncThing. And I say it's a program. It does require a bit of knowledge and setup if you're not familiar with stuff like this, but SyncThing basically allows you to create or allows you to locate a folder on one device and sync that folder across multiple devices, and then they can all be in sync. There's a whole bunch of different options, but basically you can set it up to where I'm constantly syncing my ROMs across all devices, so if I add new ROMs, then they're on my other systems. And it's the same with saves also, and I've been testing it. I just recently beat Aria of Sorrow Castlevania on GBA, and I played on 3 different devices syncing the save. So the other part that got to me was, you know what? Okay, once I'm figuring these things out and I get a little deeper into them, I am then thinking about how, okay, there's a lot more I would like to do with the RGB30, which uses Linux-based operating systems. It could be Gelos, Jelos, or Arc OS. And I actually tried both of them. I imaged them. Arc OS is pretty quick. It's pretty fast. It's harder to use. It requires a lot of skill when utilizing command prompts to navigate and change settings. Gelos is way more user-friendly, just a little slower, but they both allow SyncThing integration. So with that going, and then SyncThing on like my ROG Ally, I was able to get them to sync across. But the other thing was, well, as cool as the Gelos OS is and Arc OS, I feel like I could get something out of playing emulators on an Android. And it's more curiosity than a necessity. So what I did was I ordered, let me show this off, let's see, this right here. Actually, let me undo that. So I'm gonna show real quick. Sorry, it's taking a while. Okay. That's that glare. But anyway, this is a controller on my phone. Actually, let me just take it off. Made by GameSir, who they've made another controller I've talked on this podcast about. I think it was like last year sometime, maybe mid to late last year. Another GameSir, the KLID T4. Excellent controller. It was wired, but they made this, which is excellent because it's pretty much having on a mobile device pro controller like features. And for me, the pro controller like features are more comfort than anything. Comfort and durability. I feel like I'm holding something premium. When I'm playing games, I'm using my hands all the time holding something. I want it to feel premium. I want it to have an ease of use. I want it to enhance my gaming experience, even just by a little. And it's because I'm someone that plays games all the time, I'm more sensitive to how I feel playing the game. So, and actually, and then basically USB-C, plug this in. These have been around for a while, and some of them work and some of them don't. They tend to, because they were always smaller, it would kind of cramp my hands, so I kind of didn't care about using them, because I even had I forget what the brand was back in the day. Wow, what was that called? I just remember there was a gamepad that a company made that was like, I guess they were the first ones to use it, but after a while, okay, so sorry, I'm just blabbering on here. So if we look at, for instance, these two, the phone We've got the RGB30, you know, both in the same app. And then, let's see, get my ROG Ally. Fingerprint, please. Same sort of thing. It has like the same setup. And again, this is Windows using that emulation station front end. That's actually what you're looking at that I'm showing that looks similar across. It's the emulation station front end, which is available on all different OS types. But here's what I have drawn a conclusion of. One, it is important when you are wanting to get this involved with having like a retro game collection, build a ROMs folder and a saves folder, although I'll get to that a little later, that you would then use for syncing to sync across. It's mainly the ROMs that you need to save and the saves that you want to save. Everything else has to be configured per device. Emulators, front ends, shaders. So this is where it could be time consuming, but if you set it up ahead of time, you're good to go. And you need to have the expectation that if you're going to get a new device, there is going to be some initial setup. This initial setup is downloading the emulators, connecting everything, whether that's cores, BIOS, shaders, overlays, and it might be device dependent. You know, there's a lot of consistency with RetroArch in terms of, for a lot of the classic stuff, it's really just a matter of RetroArch, but then you got to load, you know, different cores depending on what you're trying to do. Let's see. So Windows is a little different too because, well, one, I will say that the Linux-based operating systems like GLOS and ArcOS, that seems so much easier, especially if you buy a device that already has the card loaded with the OS on it, and then you just, you know, plug in your ROMs, and then it will just work. It's really good. Android, there is setup. You have to sometimes set up per emulator or through RetroArch and then get the front end on. And that's where it's the same with Windows. Although with Windows, I have discovered, and this is through Mitch, great friend, brother of mine, that Launchbox is probably the better option for Windows, I think. Even though I'm using Emulation Station here on the ROG Ally, I guess the difference is I'm using the ROG Ally as more of a dedicated gaming device, so there's less I have to worry about the file system structure that I'm using. Also, it's because my source location of my ROMs, well, not necessarily the source, but I guess what I am using as my source that's syncing across is from my desktop computer. So if you've got a dedicated Windows device, Emulation Station could probably work fine. But for a Windows machine that you use for a lot of different things, I think Launchbox works. It makes it a little easier, and I think it's good to be familiar with these different front ends and how to change settings and the menus and options, because as these things evolve and newer front ends come out, or emulators or systems to use emulators come out and they change settings, it's good to be familiar with all that stuff, because I think what I've discovered, and it's very similar to PC gaming, on a desktop PC, is that you spend a lot of time tweaking just to get what you want to get done right. So I would say, you know, go ahead and grab one of these if you just want to plug and play. Easy, it's great to do. I would say grab one of these for an Android if you're familiar with Android. Maybe it's because you use your phone a lot anyway, and so you're like, well, I might as well be playing my games comfortably anyway. Then it might be easy for you to set up those emulators in the first place. And then I would say if you're getting you want a PC handheld for gaming, this, it works. It works too. There's other ways you could do it too, especially like using EmuDeck, I think, if you're using the Steam Deck. So the other part of this too is, another reason why I made it a big deal to use my Android phone, whereas like, why would you if you already have this? A lot of it has to do with comfort. This is great when I just want to quickly play or get through some stuff. But if I want to have, a bit longer sessions and I don't want to like sit on the computer chair for my computer or just sit in front of the TV and maybe just sit, a lot of times, at my age, it's easy to play games. I can sit around with the family, with whatever, doing my wife on the couch or whatever. And these controllers are just so comfortable that it's like I would prefer to go where the comfort is. And that brings up another point here. Switch. So here's the Switch right here. And here is the MoPad, MobaPad MHD or M6 HD. I forget what it's called exactly. The controller on this, and it might not look like it, but it is pro-like in terms of having the handles, the back buttons. This is one of the most comfortable handheld controls I have ever felt in my life. It's even got all the mechanical keys going on here. It feels solid, comfortable. So here's the thing. You can mod a Switch to then be able to play emulators. And I almost feel like this would be the perfect form factor. And right now I am just using like the phone, crossed with the ROG Ally to do that. But I think this is just slimmer, lighter, and the fact that you can trade controls from the Joy-Cons allows anyone to be able to utilize this in the way that's most comfortable for them. If they want to go out there and buy other controllers, if they accidentally break their controller, they can just swap them out. I almost see like the future of gaming should incorporate, when it comes to portability, the handheld and the controllers work together in a dynamic fashion. They are not one unit. It could be where you can take them off, just set this down, just like the Switch does already in play. And what I'm in, like the Legion Go. The Legion Go is a good example of that. At first, when I heard they had the detachable controllers, I was like, why would they do that? But I think the issue is because they focus too much on making it detachable motion controls and not like think of detaching the controls as a means of customizing your experience, modularity. This goes back to my PC gaming thing. PC gaming is becoming a lot bigger for a lot of people. There's a lot of YouTubers I'm watching online how they're kind of the retro gamer, the console gamer, and they're talking about how they're going to PC. They're wanting to build up that library because consoles are going digital anyway. So PC gaming has already been there with their big libraries, and we're seeing the bigger publishers that are console publishers publishing on PC, just not Nintendo yet. But anyway, that's why I think this could be the ultimate device. Like Nintendo is going down the right path. And think of when it all started. It was Super Nintendo with the Super Game Boy. We got a GameCube, this Super Game Boy Advance, if that's what that was called. And then the Wii U was the other attempt, except that, again, it was trying to be a gimmick instead of the fact of, oh, I have this portable device within a range. And I think they tried to make too many games utilize two screens when that was not the point. The point was, and I remember my use case, my youngest was super young when Bayonetta 2 came out, so I couldn't just be in front of the TV all the time. And I remember just sitting downstairs, I think he was in his high chair or something, and I was sitting there at the table with the Wii U gamepad playing Bayonetta 2. And I think that it's just morphed into, yeah, I'm someone that works from home, remote. So a lot of times when I'm done with work and I could be sitting there busy all day, I have a standing desk. I'm using it right now. It's very helpful. I sometimes like to be away from my computer if I'm going to maybe play some games later on in the day. It's, instead of coming back to the office to sit down again and play, sometimes I'd rather be on the couch or just out and about, backyard if the weather's nice. So it's very interesting how to play games has morphed. It has allowed me between, my PC, my handhelds, like I can just, wherever I'm at, and it's like, oh, I have some time to kill, or hey, I want to put some 30 minutes into, trying to figure out a boss in Castlevania. I can kind of do that. The saves are synced. I like to play games without having to think, okay, I need to carve time out and dedicate time to it. I like in the way life works right now that I can pick up and play when I need to. My save is there and all that. Anyway, I think I need to make videos to go deeper into this. I almost want to make a video to explain people how to use like Sync Thing, or explain to people the expectations, because if you want to get into retro gaming, there's multiple, or handheld gaming, I should say specifically, there's multiple rabbit holes from, going retro in a way, what kind of customization you want, the OSs you want to use, the amount of configuration you want to do. And a lot of times when I was doing the research into all the different devices I got and what I could do to optimize or fix or troubleshoot, a lot of times the videos came to me with context of me having to have prior knowledge of something. And I think that makes it harder for people that are not necessarily gamers that have always been interested into it, getting into it, since handheld gaming is so easy to do. I think you have to be able to approach it without having to get into the weeds of command line crap, configurations, a lot of things that I think push people away. But now that I've tried it all and seen it all, that'll be my next step making the video. But, other than that, with playing, with testing out, these ways to play games, the game I played through and beat was Castlevania, Aria of Sorrow. I hadn't played that since it came out. 2004, 2003, 4, or 5, something like that. Around the time where I had graduated high school and I was living on my own, but still playing games. And it was interesting how like the GBA was like the last of that sort of pixel era, because after the GBA we got the DS, and the DS, while having pixel-based graphics, had a lot of 3D stuff going on. And then with the era of Xbox and everything in the 2000s, it was easy to sort of forget these games, because I played through all the 3DS and DS games, or no, the advanced games and DS games, but I never beat. So I thought I never beat Portrait of, or Order of Ecclesia, but it might have been I never beat Portrait of Ruin, because I recognized all of Portrait of Ruin, and I just beat Portrait of Ruin like a week or two ago. And then I just beat Area of Sorrow, which, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me finish my thought. Because Portrait of Ruin came out, and then Order of Ecclesia came out when my first was born. And so I think I didn't play Order of Ecclesia, or I just played the beginning because I remembered some of the bosses. But Portrait of Ruin, I remembered up until the end. And then it's interesting to me because I go back and it's like, wow, I didn't remember this, because I really appreciate this aspect that I didn't remember. So then with Aria of Sorrow, beating that recently, I felt it's actually a good, fun, sort of a basic. It's almost like if, you take Symphony of the Night, and then you're kind of like, okay, let's make something like that, where we take the Game Boy Advance and push it to its limits. Like the Game Boy, let me put it this way, the Game Boy Advance wouldn't be able to play Symphony of the Night 1-to-1, but this would be like if they were to get to that, but without sort of the evolution of difficulty, or evolution of combat mechanics with bosses, I guess, because the bosses in Aria of Sorrow were a little too easy. Now that could be because I've been playing a bunch of Castlevanias in a row, but I do kind of think they were just easy. Even the last boss, I'd never do this. Well, no, it's not that I never do this, but I beat him on the first try, but I rarely beat a last boss on the first try. But it was one of those things where I've been playing so many Castlevania games, by the time I got to that boss, I was like, okay, I need to look for the pattern where there's the opening that I go to not attack. It's like, look for when I don't attack instead of looking for when I attack. It was almost like I was keeping myself sheltered, so then I was able to beat, that last boss. I think I even had 17 HP left when I beat him, but it was because I was figuring out where I needed to go and hide. And if you don't remember the last boss of Area of Sorrow, it's just two hands. It's actually one of the last bosses, and I was like sliding underneath at the right time to be able to not get hit by the hand and then just go hit and go back. And I was like, okay, that's... And then there was some more attacks after or something, but anyway, those games are just a lot of fun. So, okay, another couple things going on. Let me... Because I'm trying to think of what else I've been playing. A little bit of Helldivers, not too much. But with Helldivers, the mech is awesome, and it actually kind of gives me the idea, like, for, I'm always wanting to make it like a mech game or find or play cool mech games, but like, I think physics needs to be a big deal. Not just physics of the mech, but physics of a mech walking through a world, really making it, like, instead of necessarily focusing on the controls feeling slow and sluggish like a mech moving, how can you make the world around you really feel like you are a mech? Maybe there should be more emphasis on the effects and animations of the ground, of the foot hitting the ground, and maybe sound and stuff like that to really give off the impression, and even animation, without really focusing on gameplay. I don't know. Some other things. I use the Dragon's Dogma 2 character creator because I really want to play Dragon's Dogma 2. It's just, I know how it's going to play, so then I'm wondering if that's going to keep my interest for long. And it's funny, it's kind of because the $70 price tag, although I didn't think that would be too big of a deal for me. It happens to be, when I'm deciding on a purchase. It's weird because Helldivers 2 being $40, I didn't think twice as soon as I heard that this thing was awesome. But with Dragon's Dogma at 70, it's almost like 2 Helldivers. And it's like, I look at it this way. I like to play multiple games at once. So if I'm paying $70 for Dragon's Dogma 2, and then I want to, do my little palate cleanser with another game at that time, because sometimes there's a couple new games at once, it's going to be hard to justify spending money on another video game depending on its price, since I just dropped 70. It's almost like asking me to commit to that time in that game. That's why it's like, and that's because I know what Dragon's Dogma 2 is going to be. And the reviews are great, and I think it's going to be great. But that happens to me sometimes where it's like, if I play a game that I've already kind of played before, hold on a second. Oh man, that sneeze was coming for a while. But if I know how a game is gonna play, like how its system, sometimes I'm like, was it Lo Long or Wulong, the Team Ninja game? It played just like Neo, but a little easier. So it's like, I'll play something else. Like even the Rise of Ronin coming out, it's kind of that same thing. It's like, I kind of know how this is gonna play. And Dragon's Dogma is the same way. And it's funny because with Castlevanias, I know how they're going to play, but I enjoy the exploration. That's what I really like about the Castlevania games, is the exploration. But yeah, so Dragon's Dogma 2, I don't know. I used the character creator and made a couple characters. Another one, let's see. I was playing some Battle Operation 2. Again, I had taken a break from that because I played that so much. But I played with people from my server, a Gundam Explained server. That was a lot of fun. I think that's it. I think since the last time, I've played more games since the last time I did a Bluecast. I did try Final Fantasy Remake, the one before Rebirth, the latest one, just because it's with my PS Plus, I think, or I have it. And it seemed pretty cool, but again, it's like that time commitment. It's like I'm a type of person, I don't care about story too much in a game. I need the gameplay to kind of drive that if I'm going to care about story. And the gameplay is actually pretty cool, but it's like not amazing or different. So, was that about it? Yeah, because really, here's the thing. I'm really anticipating the Elden Ring DLC, so it's like I kind of don't want to game myself out by then. I kind of like that I'm playing these Castlevanias until I get to that. Although it's funny when you think about gameplay mechanics in general, the Souls and Castlevania games are the same thing, really. Atmosphere, tone, pacing, all that stuff. I guess that's why I like them both. But yeah, for a 3D open world game, I'm not really doing much than Helldivers 2. Yeah, very interesting, because I haven't bothered playing through Prince of Persia, even though I'd like to. I think there's some other releases that dropped that I haven't got to. Balatro on Switch, that's a lot of fun. Oh, that's reminding me, now that I'm thinking of Switch more. I paused, but I was doing Link's Awakening, Kirby, the 3D Kirby that came out about a year or two ago, not the Return to Dreamland remake. And then the Disney Island of Illusion, I think it's called, Illusion Island. That is a Castlevania game. Straight up. You just don't fight. You just jump over obstacles, but you're pretty much going one way, finding little secrets, then finding an item that allows you to then do the... And it's 4-player co-op. My wife and I have been playing, and I had to take a break from it yesterday, but I need to get back on that today. That's a lot of fun. Anything else to bring up? I know there was some crazy industry news that had to do with some more layoffs. I think like Bungie, people working on Marathon. You know, again, I've said this enough, but you know how the industry's changing. It's very interesting. So I don't know. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for those that have watched this. Like, subscribe, all that nonsense. Yeah, and then we'll talk later.